Hello, my name is Phaedra Latouf, and I'm doing a persuasive speech on why standardized testing is bad for students. Imagine a student who spends months preparing for a high-stakes test that will determine their academic future. Now picture that same student struggling with anxiety, stress, and feelings of failure. Unfortunately, this isn't an uncommon scenario. This is a reality for millions of students today. Standardized testing, which was intended to measure achievement and promote fairness, has instead created a system filled with pressure, fear, and inequality. As someone who has personally experienced the pressure of these exams and taken the time to research their effects, I can speak on how harmful the standardized testing environment is, not only for academic development, but people's mental health and overall well-being. We all want the same thing: an education system that helps students grow, discover their passions, and prepare for a meaningful future. But the current focus on standardized testing is holding students back and not helping them thrive. Standardized testing is detrimental to students because it increases stress and narrows their curriculum and deepens educational inequalities. For instance, many students will just study what's on the standardized testing and get really good at that, and not work and understand everything that they're learning in school, which is a wider variety. If we want an education system that truly supports students, we must reform and eliminate these tests and explore more holistic methods of assessment. Today, I'll talk to you about how standardized testing harms students in 3 key ways: by increasing stress and anxiety, by limiting the scope of what and how students learn, and by widening the gap between privileged and marginalized students. For instance, privileged would be someone who's able to pay for test-taking classes and to learn kind of cheat codes for taking these standardized tests, and marginalized students who are just people who have to take them off the street and hope they get a good score. Multiple studies have shown that standardized tests are a major source of anxiety for students. In fact, many students report feeling physically ill before testing days, experiencing headaches, sleepless nights, panic attacks, anger. The stress doesn't end when the test is over. The fear of not scoring high enough lingers, and it affects students' confidence and mental health long term. When this does happen, because the stakes are so high, a student's score can determine whether they get into college, whether they graduate, or qualify for scholarships. But no single test should carry that much weight, especially when it doesn't count for creativity, problem solving, or effort. Also, putting stress on these kinds of tests can make you fail, so it doesn't really tell how much someone actually knows. Beyond the emotional toll, standardizing testing also limits what students learn and how they learn it. So, because standardized tests usually focus on math and reading, many teachers feel forced to teach the test, which means class time is often spent drilling test content rather than exploring subjects deeply or encouraged critical thinking. As a result, other valuable areas of education like the arts, music, physical education, and social studies are pushed to the side. Students lose opportunities to be creative, to express themselves, and to connect with what they're learning in real-world problems. Even more troubling is how this system affects students who are already at a disadvantage. Research clearly shows that students from low-income families and minority communities tend to score lower on standardized tests. But that doesn't mean they're less intelligent or less capable. It often just means they don't have access to test prep resources, tutors, and quiet places to study, or even the time. The system ends up punishing students for circumstances outside their control, and when test scores are used to decide school funding or teacher evaluations, struggling communities fall further behind. The result becomes a cycle of inequality that standard tests only make worse. So now that we understand the harms of standardized testing, what can we do instead? To recap, standardized testing increases students' stress and anxiety. It narrows the educational experience by limiting creative and deeper writings. It reinforces inequality and punishing students who need the support the most. And the system is flawed. Standardized testing is not helping our students, it's hurting them. And it's time we should do something about it. So let's push for a change and support assessment methods that evaluate students more fairly. meaning through project-based learnings, portfolios, teacher evaluations, and more personalized feedback, we can use these methods to change and recognize each student as a whole person, not just a number on a score sheet. Imagine an educational system where students are free to explore their passions, learn from their mistakes, and grow in ways tests could never measure. That's the kind of future we should be fighting for. Let's stop letting standardized tests define our future and start creating a system that truly empowers students to succeed.